Hi, I'm Peter Master Livy Cherbolenko, and in this series I explore the typical mistakes of people rated anywhere between 1000 and 2000. This is a first reaction, no engine analysis of a chess.com game played between 1272 versus 1353. Let's start. Right, so d4, e5. Okay, so this is not the most common opening. I think this is called the England gambit. Yeah, not the main line. But let's see, e5, d, yeah, makes sense, just take the free pawn, d6. So basically, what is the point of this England gambit? Well, there's, I think, two approaches black can apply. One is just a temporary pawn sacrifice, and then they can try and get it back, right? With, like, let's say knight c6, let's say knight f3, and now, for example, I move like queen e7, let's say, yeah? And then, like, just take back the pawn. So it was just like a temporary pawn sacrifice. Now the second point, the more maybe advanced point, is not even to try to get the pawn back at all. The second point would be we sacked the pawn for development. So hence the d6 move. What is the point? The point is that, let's say, white takes, and then black takes with the bishop. And now, although black is down a pawn, but black has better development, right? Their bishop is developed. You know, the knight comes up, next move, you can castle, this bishop is already open, the knight can come, next move. See, so black has much faster development, and in the opening, usually we should prioritize development over material. Like, development is more important. So this is the more advanced approach, right, of a gambit. We don't just get back the pawn, we actually fully lose the pawn, but instead we get great development. So I think that is what black is doing here. But let's see what happened in the game. So they played d6. Also in the game, white did take. Okay. Of course, white is not obliged to take. White can just play a move like... Maybe actually white shouldn't take. I think white should just play like knight f3. Why white take and help black develop his bishop with tempo? It's not necessary. Why not just go knight f3? And now if black takes, first of all, we did not help him develop the bishop. Second of all, now we just take the queen. And now they cannot castle, right? Because the king has moved. Also, now that there are no queens, it's less risky for white. Because, like I said, if we just take here, then yes, black is down a pawn, but as long as they have a queen, you know, they can create like an attack against our king. So it's quite dangerous. But without the queens, black does not have enough compensation, because without the queens, they cannot really attack us, you know, attack our king. Right? And plus, when you have more material, you want to trade more pieces, you want to simplify. So just knight e5, attacking f7, and now we have to move the king back, waste time. White has a huge advantage. White is simply up a healthy pawn, a full pawn. So I think knight f3, white take, just keep the tension, let him take. And if he doesn't take, okay, you also don't take. Next we could develop this knight, you know, maybe bishop on f4, or maybe bishop on g5, by the way, right, because the knight is supporting the g5 square, attack the queen, maybe think of a light square bishop, perhaps g3, bishop g2, you know, and then a short castle, and the bishop would be on the great diagonal, something like this. The rule of thumb is, don't just immediately take, because they are free pawn, right, let them take, keep the tension. Okay, so ed already I don't like. But let's see, bishop d6, okay. Knight c3, developing the knight. Okay. Bishop f5, activating the bishop. Alright. Knight f... I mean, e4 here would have been interesting with tempo. Why not attack the bishop with tempo? Right? Plus open up this bishop. And then white can play knight f3, maybe like bishop c4, attacking f7. I think e4 makes sense. Because the problem is, like, like in this case, black would have just played like knight f6, and now white cannot play e4 anymore, because black just controls the e4 square. So I think white should have played first e4 before knight f6. But let's see, knight f3, knight c6, developing the knight. Okay. What? I mean, what? Preventing the knight b4, but this is so slow. Like, white makes a couple like violations, right, of opening principles. First, they like took on d6 instead of developing, right, instead of keeping the tension, they just help like develop. Now they make a corner pawn move in the opening, which is the last thing you should do. Even if you see a threat, well, first of all, you have to think how real, how dangerous that threat is, and second of all, even if it is dangerous, think how can I defend against it in an indirect way, in an active way. This is passive defense. The only point of this is mere defense against knight b4. Like, that's the only function. It's passive defense against only one thing, knight b4, you know. But we want to defend in an active way. We want to make such moves, but they're like, we at the same time defend against our opponent's threat, but also have their own function, their own attacking function. So for example here, you know, knight b4 is not even such a big threat. Why? For example, white could have played just a normal move, let's say some random move, yeah, let's say, I don't know, g3, like one of get of a bishop. And now if black goes knight b4, we can defend against it, but in a way that is also attacking. Best moves are those that combine defense with offense. So here we just go knight d4. We at the same time defend the pawn, centralize and activate the knight, but also attack his bishop. And then we can play a3 if we want with tempo. Once the knight already came through b4, a3 makes more sense. Why? Because it comes with a tempo. So in that case, it is okay. So do you see the difference between playing a3 before black even played knight b4, so literally just a waste of time, and playing something like, let's say, here, 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 with tempo, centralizing the knight, attacking the bishop, preparing bishop g2, and then a3 maybe with tempo. So that's my point. Don't make mere passive moves, but defend actively, right? So a3 mistake. Let's see, knight f6, or by the way, an even easier approach. Now that black did not yet play knight f6, would have been to just play e4. What do you think makes more sense? To defend against knight b4, knight c2 by playing a3, or to simply play e4, which blocks the diagonal? You see, this combines defense with offense with development. So a3 is like a horrible move. e4, and I just develop a bishop, depending on the situation. Here, 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 or here, right? Yeah. Okay, knight f6. Now already it's too late. Yeah, e3, now they go. Why not pin this knight? Why block this bishop? Just look at your pawns, right? You just like put, I mean, at white's pawns. Why just put like the pawns on b2, a3, e3, the bishop is like completely stuck. Why not first put the bishop outside the chain, pin the knight, create some problems, some inconveniences for black, and then play e3 and close the chain, and then develop this bishop. So e3 is also inaccurate. I think I should have played. So bishop g5, and if black goes h6, we could just play bishop h4, keep attention, yeah? And if g5, well, that's just weakening. And now how black is gonna castle kingside? It will be too risky. So g5, we just go bishop g3, which this bishop is quite good for black anyway. So this is actually a great trade for us, because it's quite like a, you know, strong bishop, you know, centralized bishop. We want to get rid of it. And then if black ever castles kingside, we also have like h4 pawn break, to g5. And also if black takes, we can, like, you know, maybe like take on d8, trade the queens. If they do not take, and we take on d6, and we take over pawn, we'll have a weak pawn on d6, which we can later on attack with like queen d2, rook, queen d2, rook d1, right? So bishop g5. But also if they don't do anything, we can like pin the knight, with like knight d5, right? You know, there's also threats like e4, yeah. So bishop g5, I think, would have been the best move, for sure. But let's see, e3, yeah, quite an inaccurate move. Queen e7, yeah. So I guess now we prepare long castle, because black is down a pawn. When you're down a pawn, you don't just want to play a simple game. You want to complicate the game. You want to play asymmetrical chess, create imbalances, right? Or opposite castling, right? To have more chances to compensate for the pawn. Let's see. Bishop d3. Yeah, bishop d3 is okay. White is up a pawn, so he wanna trade. But actually, if I think about it, although bishop d3 is like okay, what would have been a much better move here, probably? If we know that we wanna castle queenside, I think much more sense would have made to play bishop b5, pinning the knight and aiming to destroy black's structure, pawn structure. So now if they castle queenside, we just take the knight. They take the knight, I mean our bishop, and now we have a destroyed pawn structure and a weak king. And now we can, you know, get the queen away from this file, play like queen e2, threatening queen a6 with attack. And black has weak king, discovered king, weak pawns. By the way, the knight can come through d4, maybe even like right now, I don't know, like knight d4 first, threatening the bishop, threatening here, double attack, right? Also this makes sense actually, or queen e2 first, and then all this stuff with knight d4. White has clear advantage. Just bishop b5. Just threatening to destroy the structure. There's also knight d4 threat, obviously, yeah? Attacking the bishop and the knight. There's also like queen f3 afterwards, right? After knight d4. So I think bishop b5 was the most active. So the rule of thumb is when you want to move a piece, always first think what is the most active piece, active square I can move it to. Don't just move it to like e2 or d3 mindlessly. Think what is the most active square, the most annoying for my opponent, where it can create most damage from. Okay, so bishop b5 I think would have been white's best move. But here bishop d3, bishop e4. This is a weird move. I think black should have just like taken, let's say, I don't know. I may just like castle queenside. Just like take, and if white takes, just castle queenside. And now black has a safe king. I mean, yeah, white could have also played cd, but again, just castle queenside. And then attacking the center and the king side, maybe like roll the pawns over king side, pawn storm. Or if they don't want to take, but maybe like bishop g6 side, but then again, there's bishop b5. So probably black should just take to avoid bishop b5, right? But let's see, bishop b4 is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Why use castles? I mean, white could have also just taken the bishop, right? The power of two bishops. Yeah, this probably was the best. Would have been the best. Knight takes e4, and now again bishop b5. Again, threatening to destroy black's pawn structure, but also threatening a move like queen d5, by the way. You know, putting some pressure on this knight, but also on the c6 knight. And again, if black castles, now actually maybe now bishop c6 might not work because of bishop b4 check. And then we take the queen. So yeah, there's bishop. There's this bishop b4 annoying. So white would have to play like queen e2, and then black has the time to move a knight to like e5, let's say. See, so it's a bit too late. It's a bit too late. Yeah, white should have played bishop b5 earlier. But still, I mean, we can just like take, and it's still okay. We could just like castle here, or still white has the two bishops, right? So still makes sense, I think. Still makes sense to just take the bishop and have two bishops, I think. But okay, let's see. So castles. Oh, so I think this was a mouse slip, obviously. I think black just wanted to castle long, of course. Yeah, it would have been a pretty interesting game. So white has here what? White is like up a pawn, but black has some good development. White's king can potentially be weak, you know, black would like push the pawns, right? Pawn storm, h2 might be weak. If black gets rid of his knight by taking it or by playing g5, g4, knight goes away, h2 becomes weak. You know, there's some pressure on the d file. This bishop is very strong, attacking the h2 square. Black can also engage this knight, the c6 knight, maybe play like knight e5, get rid of our f3 knight, and then if we take on e5, queen takes e5, creating a bishop-queen battery, attacking h2. For white, it doesn't seem as easy to create attack on the queen side. Doesn't seem that white has enough resources on the queen side, and that black has any like substantial weaknesses on the queen side. So I actually think black has some good compensation here for the pawn. Yeah, I think black has some good prospects here. But let's see, black played king d8. Yeah, most likely a mouse slip. Bishop takes c4. Knight takes c4, knight d5. I mean, I understand, but I think we have to go for the power of two bishops. Why not take with a knight here, and now bishop b5, and again threatening, you know, bishop c6, threatening queen d5, you know, threatening this knight, the c6 knight, being a rook to d1, you know, stuff like this, or threatening to, let's say, after bishop b5 take the knight, and after they take, play knight d4, right? Again threatening the c6 pawn, and then threatening also knight f5 stuff. I think this would have been the best for white. Yeah, just take the bishop and then bishop b5. But okay, let's see here. here, knight d5. I mean, the knight looks good, but ultimately everything's guarded here. c7 is guarded, so it just looks nice, but nothing crazy. I mean, okay, queen e6, c4, defending the knight, makes sense. Okay, king d7, all right. b3 now, I understand, but why play so passively? If you're gonna move a pawn, why not move it all the way to b4? To have press like c5, b5, right? Attack the king, attack the pieces. I think this makes way more sense. b4, you know, bishop b2 next, c5, b5, maybe queen c2, maybe bring a rook to d1. Just play more actively. Like I said previously, the same applies for the pawns. If you want to move a pawn first thing, what would be the most aggressive pawn move? And when if that does not work, then look at the more, you know, quiet, mild move. Yeah, so b3 is quite b3 is quite passive. Yeah, I don't like b3. It's just passive. Yeah, b4 would have been way more active. But okay, rook d8. Okay, bishop b2, activating the bishop. Finally, black castles artificially. Bishop takes g7. I'm not so sure about this. Actually, it's not so much about the pawns when it's like opposite castling, because why just helps black open up a g file and then attack our g2 pawn, attack our king. Yeah, like double up on the g file and attack the king. So I don't think that's a great idea. I think white should focus on his own queen-set attack. Again, the pawn should have been on b4, all right? But maybe play like b4 now, and then this queen will go to like a4, you know, threatening this knight, the pawn, threatening b5 and c5 potentially, right? Having an active queen, looking at the black's king. So I think b4 would have made sense. b4, queen a4, I mean, just push the pawns. Yeah, this probably would have been the best. But yeah, bishop g7, yeah, just don't take pawns like this. You just help black. Black himself wants to get rid of these pawns to attack you. So, all right, let's see here, bishop back to b2, h6. I mean, this is quite weak. Maybe black already has some attack. What was the point of h6? Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe it was a mouse slip or something. Makes absolutely zero sense. Or it's most like, first we should look at rook takes g2. You always want to start first with the craziest moves. Always start first with the craziest move. Never start with h6. King takes g2. Rook j check. King h1. Queen h3. Threatening queen g2 checkmate. Game over. So if white plays rook g1, trying to prevent queen g2, knight f2. Very beautiful checkmate. If they, I mean, move, the knight to like e1, well, but black's for queen, so there's two checkmates. There's queen f1 checkmate, or black could play, I mean, queen h2 checkmate. And finally, if like knight h4, guarding this, of course, black would just take the knight, obviously. Or simply queen h2 immediately, checkmate. Yeah, so this actually wins on the spot. Yeah, this actually wins on the spot. And if knight f4, I mean, we just take the knight, yeah? I mean, it's the same price. See, so that's a very key rule. Always first look at the crazy stuff, like tactics, sacrifices, before you look at a normal move. But let's say h6, huge blunder. Bishop navigate d, what's the point? You go first to b2, then you go back to d4, wasting time, moving the same piece, completely ignoring black's attack. That's another thing, don't move the same piece twice. Also, don't ignore your opponent's attack. Be realistic. Don't focus on some a7 pawn when they're about to checkmate you. Like, think more prophylactically, defend more. Be more mindful of your opponent's threats. White already is in some danger here, of course, but yeah, already actually is difficult. Maybe white should have played g3, but there's still, you know, potential for some, you know, sacrifice on g3 from black, you know, with attack. Maybe knight e1 to defend g2, but then again there's queen h3. If knight e1 versus like queen h3, attacking h2. So already white is in a very dire situation. In a bleak situation. Yeah, and it all started with bishop g7. So this shows why I should not take pawns like this. But let's see. So here, queen g4. Again, black would have won in a very beautiful way by sacking rook. Here, 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 threatening queen g2. And when if rook joins, knight f2, checkmate. But black played queen g4. Or if you're gonna move a queen, at least move it all the way to h3. It's more active, not blocking the rook, also attacking h2. Makes more sense, right? But okay, let's see. Here, g3, knight g5. Again, I think, again, black could have sacked here material, probably. Maybe not. Yeah, I think, yeah. Let's say like knight takes g3, for example. Yeah, knight takes g3, hg, bishop takes g3, fg, queen takes g3 check. Here, checkmate. Always check sacrifices first. All right, so I think, yeah, sacrifice probably should have worked. I mean, maybe white has some better defense. We would need more time for that, but anyway, it's pretty interesting. Knight g3. But again, knight g5, too simplistic. Like, black should not trade pieces. When you attack, don't trade pieces, especially the knights. The queen and knight tandem is one of the best. Very dangerous, because the knights are very tricky. So never exchange the knights when you attack. But okay, knight takes g5, obviously. Queen takes, okay. c5, hanging with knight. I mean, white could have just played bishop f6. Double attack. Attack the queen and attack the rook. Queen move somewhere, whatever. Then we just take. Oops. Then we just take the rook. And now white is winning. Just bishop f6. Elementary. See, this is not paying attention to your opponent's moves. This is just fixating on your own, stuff and not looking at the concrete position. Don't just think, in your mind about some esoteric stuff. Look at the concrete situation. What is my opponent's last move? What are the concrete opportunities I have right now after my opponent's last move? Not what you planned 10 moves ago, but right now. Bishop f6. Just like look at the whole board. Don't just focus on the queen side. Don't just focus in the center, on the center, or on the king side. Focus on the whole board. All right. Let's see. c5. Yeah, major mistake. Bishop e5. I mean, of course, black would have just taken. Yeah, of course, white can take, but then black just takes. It has a very good position. Has a good position. So black would have just done that. Or there's also this tactic, by the way. There's multiple tactics. There's like bishop takes c5. By the way. Oh yeah, this is looking very great. Maybe even the best. Because now after bishop c5, rook takes d5. Double attack against the queen and the bishop. Although white can play bishop d4, but still it's good for black to have like this bishop pinned, stuff like this. There's h5, h4. It's still great for black. But yeah, bishop c5 is another move. There's obviously also bishop takes g3. Takes, and then rook takes d5. Or queen takes d5, Or rook takes, and then there's ideas like h5, h4. Because this pawn is quite weak. It only has the defense of f2 pawn, not the h2 pawn. So it's quite weak. And the bishop is completely stupid. Like this knight, why has such weak light squares? This knight has way more potential on these weak light squares than the bishop. Completely stupid. Has no moves. Yeah. So, okay, bishop e5, black found also actually an interesting move. But let's see. Knight f. What? Knight f4 and white resigned. Yeah, I mean, if takes, then just rook takes d5, yeah? Ah, no, actually, wait, what am I saying? No, if takes, then, I mean, probably just take with a queen, for example, yeah? Attacking this knight is pinned, Yeah, this actually is looking good. Because e4 we just take, and again, this knight is pinned, looking very good for black. There's also knight e5, of course, oops. Although there's maybe like f4. Attacking a queen of an enemy, so maybe not. Maybe just like here. Here, just take. But let's see, knight f4 and white resigned. Interesting, white resigned. I mean, maybe they saw, I mean, obviously black is completely winning, but usually they like continue on, you know, continue the game. I mean, probably the easiest is just like, would have been for black just to play knight takes d4, ed, and like bishop f4, for example. Yeah, the pawn is pinned. The pawn is pinned. Yeah, alright, I hope you enjoyed the analysis. If so, like, comment below, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.